Next question goes to Mr. Buzi first. How would you address the challenges and taxpayer concerns that resulted from the reevaluation process?
Well, I think I have. Instead of making political points on revaluation, I've actually addressed the issue. Last year, I was the first town, or our town was the first town in 28 years to get a delay implementation of putting the revaluation in. Now, I worked with the town council, I worked with OPM, and I worked with the Attorney General's office to see if that was the right way to go. I also lobbied heartily to have another option, which would have been a 3-year delay in the revaluation. The process itself was flawed because the vendor didn't perform. I immediately, once we found out there was problems with the vendor, I immediately shut down payments to them. And now we are in contracts with another vendor that's going to help us through and will provide us with a good revaluation and a fairer market valuation as we head into the 2009 season.
Thank you. Mr. Vavrek.
In December of 2008, on a Board of Finance meeting that included the assessor, my opponent, and the owner of Total Reval, there was no mention of anything wrong with the process at the time. During that meeting, though, however, a mill rate of 24.13 was acknowledged as important to budget adoption. At a March 2009 Town Council meeting, there was still no mention of what was going on. Another case of lack of open and upfront communication, but the result of the whole thing was 925 taxpayer appeals, 7 lawsuits, $22.5 million in technical errors, $13.5 million in tax adjustments, incorrect assessments for most condominiums, and over $359,000, and from what we just heard, maybe more unnecessary expenses. And it could have been addressed if we just upfront and open on the timeline, and it might have delayed any potential problems.
Any rebuttal?
Sure. First of all, Mr. Vavrek's facts are incorrect. We never spent $359,000. That was the entire reserve. We spent about $200,000. I have $160,000 left, and we're going to enter into a contract with a reputable provider of these services to get this job done. We've been working with OPM, and we found that these people are legitimate. So I'm not sure where he's come up with these numbers, and I'll be glad to address the mill rate issue because mill rates are an algorithm depending on what your grand list is.
Okay. Anything further?
Bottom line is 925 taxpayer appeals, 7 lawsuits, $22.5 million in technical errors, $13.5 million in tax adjustments, and these came right from the books. But even more important, we lost a very valuable person on the Board of Assessment Appeals because they weren't getting any answers. And his letter, Dick Orr's letter is right here. He was just, everything was dragging on. No doubt when it'll continue into next year. I repeatedly asked about resolution of appeal that was made and got no answer. So I'm just going by what I read.
All right. Thank you both.